Hi, Right Writers. Cruz here. Thank you so much for joining me. In this video, we are going to be writing 160 words in 20 minutes, modeling the example that you might see in the Oxford Test of English or on the Oxford Test of English. Typically, they require you to write an essay of some sort. It should reach at least or as close to 160 words as possible, and it is typically done in 25 minutes. In this case, and on this channel, it will be done in 20 minutes. And again, my goal is to write as close to 160 words as possible on a given persuasive prompt. In this case, we have our prompt before you, and it has to do with reality television. Before I start my timer, Right Writers, I am going to go ahead and read the prompt, and we will get started. Today, there are more and more reality shows on television. Do these shows make good television? Why or why not? Explain your answer using specific reasons and examples. All right, right, writers, I will go ahead and start my timer, and that way we can see the experience again of writing under pressure, and let's see what I can come up with. Of course, we always want to mention the prompt. So that's always what I go with, especially as I'm trying to formulate ideas and thinking about how I'm going to set up my introduction and my conclusion, because that is usually what I start with first. Then I get to my body paragraph. So I'm going to use the prompt, of course, um, which is something like, you know, reality shows have become quite popular. And again, the question is, do these shows make good television? Why or why not? So, reality shows have become um, quite popular. Whether or not they make good television, or these shows make good television. And again, do I agree or disagree with the response? So in the persuasive prompt, again, you have to take a position, right, writers? So I always like to, it depends on the prompt, but I'm definitely going against the idea. And then in the next video, I will write an essay supporting this idea. So I'm going to go ahead and go against it because that's my initial response. That's how I personally feel about it. So you always want to go with your instincts, which is your actual personal opinion, not what you think someone else wants to hear. So I'm going to say that I am not a fan of reality shows. That's not to say that I have not seen reality shows, but I am not a big fan of them. So I'm going to say something like for my thesis or the last sentence of my introduction. It's also known as a what could be considered a topic sentence. Reality shows have become quite popular. Whether or not these shows make good television, remains to be seen. Something like that. In my opinion, I do not think, in my opinion, or I believe these kinds of shows are a waste of time. And I believe these shows are a waste of time, and they do not make good television. Okay. Reality shows have become quite popular. Whether or not these shows make good television remains to be seen. Okay, that's something I definitely want to take out because I'm sort of saying leaving it up to the reader, but that's not what I need to do. I need to take a position. And right writers, I am arguing that these shows are a waste of time and they do not make good television. So Um, what I might do is use this first sentence really as an introductory sentence. So, reality shows have become quite popular um, during in the 21st century. Something super generic and super broad. So, right writers, again, oftentimes, you know, students and individuals ask me, how do you come up with ideas to create your introduction or to create your conclusion? And all I say is, look, I just think of whatever comes to my mind when I think of reality shows. And I try to zoom out and go as broad as possible and to make sure that people, no matter what your background, culturally, no matter what your age, you can connect with the prompt in some sort of way. And I think we can all agree that reality shows, yes, they really started at the end of the 20th century, but they really started to become quite popular, I argue, I believe, in the 21st century. So that's what I'm going with as far as my first sentence. I may change it up. Right, writers, I have 14 minutes and 45 seconds remaining. Reality shows have become quite popular in the 21st century. On the surface, and so I'm going to bring out some positives and then I'm going to end with negatives. On the surface, these shows appear quite harmless. On the surface, these shows appear harmless. On the surface, these shows appear harmless because they highlight, I was going to say the daily experiences, they highlight everyday experiences. Okay, so right writers, I was thinking of, I mean, everyday experiences, but it really depends on the reality show because sometimes they are not everyday experiences. So it just depends on the show. So I'm just going to say on the surface, these shows appear harmless because they highlight the human experience. They appear harmless, or maybe I'll say on the surface, these shows appear interesting because they highlight the human experience. However, on a deeper level, so I'm trying to think of this idea of, again, just sort of explaining how what life is really not like and how it's pretty much scripted. And it's not really exactly how life is. So it's an edited version of life. So that's what I'm going to go with, something like that. However, on a deeper level, these However, on a deeper level, these television shows are simply scripted and edited of a producer or directors of a producer's or director's version. Let's see. However, on a deeper level, 10 minutes remaining, right, writers? However, on a deeper level, these television shows are scripted and edited versions of what channel executives. However, on a deeper level, these television shows are scripted and edited versions of what channel executives think life should be like, or think are scripted and edited versions of what channel executives believe we will consume. Therefore, I believe these shows are a waste of time and they do not make good television. Okay, right, writers, I am going to go with this as my introduction. What I'm doing is I'm copying and pasting it, and I'm pretty much making it my conclusion. Oops, let me undo that. And I'm copying basically the last sentence of my introduction and making it the first sentence of my conclusion. And that is something that is a strategy that I use to address, time constraints. And it allows the reader to come back full circle, right, writers? And again, if you think about it, when you're writing a much longer essay, by the time you get to the conclusion, you have pretty much forgotten what was already mentioned in the introduction. And so that is why I always, take my introduction and revamp it, customize it just a little bit, and make it my conclusion. Let me go ahead and jump from my intro to conclusion, and then we'll make our body paragraph. We have 7 minutes and 45 seconds remaining, right, writers? Reality shows have become quite popular in the 21st century. On the surface, these shows appear interesting because they highlight the human experience. However, on a deeper level, these television shows are scripted and edited versions of what channel executives believe we will consume. Therefore, I believe these shows are a waste of time and they do not make good television. And then I end with, therefore, I believe these shows are a waste of time and they do not make good television. Reality shows, and I think I'll just say on the surface, while on the surface, comma, reality shows look interesting, or seem fascinating, just to change up the words just a little bit, seem fascinating. While on the surface, reality shows seem fascinating because they highlight unique human experiences. They are not. Instead, on a deeper level, these television shows are scripted and edited versions of what channel executives believe we will watch. Okay. So, right, writers, at this point, I want to check my word count just to see how I'm doing. So, I'm going to check that and then we'll go from there. I've got 5 minutes remaining to make an introduction. Okay. I'm at 116 words. So, not too bad. I'm looking for maybe 160, but we'll see if we get there or as close to that number as possible. So, I mentioned that I believe these shows are a waste of time and they do not make good television. So let's think about, therefore, I believe these shows are a waste of time and they do not make good television. Um, Spending hours in front of a screen watching someone else's life unfold. So, thinking of, again, this idea of a waste of time, because again, here we are watching these shows instead of living our own lives. So, spending hours in front of a screen watching someone else's life unfold allows people to escape or encourages people to escape from their own lives. This escapism, let's see, right, writers. 2 or 3 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. Spending hours in front of a screen watching someone else's life encourages people to escape from their own lives rather than facing their own reality. Television viewers would much rather, or rather than facing their own reality, television viewers prefer examining someone else's. Valuable time, precious time, precious time is wasted. Indeed, precious time is wasted. 1 minute and 45 seconds, right, writers? Spending hours in front of a screen watching someone else's life encourages people to escape from their own lives. Rather than facing their own reality, television viewers prefer examining someone else's reality. Indeed, precious time is wasted. And that is a shame because while we should be enjoying our time on this planet, we are busy watching others live the life we 20 seconds remaining, right, writers? Indeed, precious time is wasted, and that is a shame because while we should be enjoying our time on this planet, we are busy watching others live their life. Okay, 12 seconds remaining, right, writers. I am probably going to stop right now because again, I've got like 4 seconds remaining. Um, going off. And I'm going to go ahead and X that. So now I want to see how many words I have, right, writers, and I'm going to just do a quick word check here. So let me bring this back down, check my tools, and hope. Oh, I hit 177. Okay, so I went a little bit over, not a little bit over, a lot over. So with 177 words, let's go ahead and look at what I have, and then we will deduct. The appropriate amount. We want to get to, of course, 160 words. And again, this is an example of why it's super important to give yourself about a minute to go back and take a look at what you've created so that you can delete some words here. So in this case, what I want to do is delete 17 words. So let's see how we can do that. But let's first take a look at what I have so far at 177 words. Here's the introduction. Again, we'll go start with the introduction, then we will go to the body paragraph and then the conclusion. And we will also be checking for flow. So let's take a peek. Reality shows have become quite popular in the 21st century. On the surface, these shows appear interesting because they highlight the human experience. However, on a deeper level, these television shows are scripted and edited versions of what channel executives believe we will consume. Therefore, I believe these shows are a waste of time and they do not make good television. Introduction. So far, so good. Let's go to our body paragraph. Spending hours in front of a screen watching someone else's life encourages people to escape from their own lives. Rather than facing their own reality, television viewers prefer examining someone else's reality. Indeed, precious time is wasted, and that is a shame because while we should be enjoying our time on this planet, we are busy watching others live their life. Um, I see a few little grammatical errors which we will address, but moving on to the conclusion. Therefore, I believe these shows are a waste of time and they do not make good television. While on the surface, reality shows seem fascinating because they highlight unique human experiences, they are not. Instead, on a deeper level, these television shows are scripted and edited versions of what channel executives believe we will watch. I actually, right writers, really like my introduction and my conclusion. I'm going to start by deleting some, I think, repetition in my conclusion and shrink that first to try to get it to 160 words. And then again, make a couple of changes in the body paragraph. But overall, I have to say, I'm impressed with my introduction and conclusion under the time constraints. So I'm going to say something like, therefore, I believe these shows are a waste of time and they do not make good television. And keeping while on the surface, reality shows seems reality shows seem fascinating because they highlight unique human experiences. They are not. And instead, I'm going to take out on a deeper level and just say instead these shows and take out television because we know we're talking about television. Instead, these shows are scripted and edited versions of what channel executives believe we will watch. So at this point, I want to do a quick check and just see where I am just by making the deletions that I've made. So now I'm down to 172. Again, and just editing here what we have. So I just have to delete 12 more words. So now I'm going to take a look at I'm going to leave my introduction alone, and instead I'm going to focus on my body paragraph. So, spending hours in front of a screen watching someone else's life encourages people to escape their own. And I'm going to take out lives there. So, right now I'm down to now 171. And so shrink that a little bit. And now I'm just 11 words here. Rather than facing their own reality, I'm going to take out television and go with viewers. So now I'm down to 170. Viewers prefer examining someone else's. And I'm going to take out reality here because that's what I was referring to earlier. So now I'm down to 169. So 9 words remaining here to delete or edit out. Rather than facing their own reality, viewers prefer examining someone else's. Indeed, precious time is wasted. And that is a shame because while we should be enjoying our time, I kind of want to add a word here, which is too. We are too busy watching others live theirs. Okay, because while we should be enjoying our lives, we are too busy watching others live theirs. Okay, let me check that, right, writers, and just do a quick word count here and see where we are. Okay, 166. So I'll move that. So I still have 6 words to take away. Let me go back and take out, instead of having in the 21st century, that's going to eliminate four words right there. And just starting with quite popular. So now I just have to delete 2 more words. So let's see. Um, I'm going to take out television up here. Now I'm down to 161. And 1 more word to delete. Okay, I'm going to take out the scripted and edited because I said that earlier. And that takes us really to 159, right, writers? And I think I'm going to be okay with that. So just looking at the word count, 159. Okay, so you can see, right, writers, again, thinking about how long it took me to take away those 12 words. Or no, I had 177, so really 17 words. It takes a minute to go back and edit, a little bit more than a minute, but if you give yourself about 60 seconds, you can definitely have enough time to do this. And on top of that, right, writers, keep in mind that on the Oxford test of English, they actually show you how many words you have. So as you're typing, you're keeping track of your word count, which I think is very helpful. So let's take a look at what we have here. Reality shows have become quite popular. On the surface, these shows appear interesting because they highlight the human experience. However, on a deeper level, these shows are scripted and edited versions of what channel executives believe we will consume. Therefore, I believe these shows are a waste of time and they do not make good television. Spending hours in front of a screen watching someone else's life encourages people to escape from their own. Rather than facing their own reality, viewers prefer examining someone else's. Indeed, precious time is wasted, and that is a shame because while we should be enjoying our lives, we are too busy watching others live theirs. Therefore, I believe these shows are a waste of time, and they do not make good television. While on the surface, reality shows seem fascinating because they highlight unique human experiences, they are not. Instead, these shows are scripted versions of what channel executives believe we will watch. Okay, not too bad, right, writers? I think if I had to make a decision, I would change these two where I would add reality shows up here and then take out the reality shows down there just to remind the reader that our topic is reality shows. That would just be a quick edit change that I would make, but to allow for flow. And other than that, right, writers, I leave you with, again, another example of uh, writing strategies. And probably the most important thing, or the most repetitive thing that you will notice that I do, is under time constraints. I take probably most of my time creating my introduction and my conclusion, copying and pasting the same information, and then leaving myself with, 5 or 6 minutes on the body paragraph. So, right, writers, I hope this video was helpful and useful for you. Again, watching my writing in real time. And I hope this ensures your success as a writer. Take care, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your week and see you again soon. All right, I'm out. Thanks so much for subscribing. Thank you. Love you guys. Take care. Bye bye.